That's okay. Preparing the stream. You prepared. Hi everyone. Welcome to Staples High School. We're here today where the 5-0 Wreckers are going to take on the 3-4 Bears from Norwalk. And I have pleasure having with me here the pregame show, Coach Matty Jacowleff.
Yes,
Coach Matty, how are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. It's awesome to be here.
I think you're the one I interview the most. And our time is just so great. It's so great to have you. Well, know where to kick off first, but asking you about your first season as a head coach at Staples. Summarize it for us.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was a great experience and such a great opportunity to lead the football team and be around such amazing individuals on a daily basis. Just like anything in life, we had some great ups, beating Darien for the first time as a program for 14 years, beating West Haven at home in front of a sellout crowd. And then some downs and some things that, we want to take away and learn from and get better at, but ultimately it has been just such a great honor to be a part of the Staples football program in any capacity, and for me to kind of be around the quality of human beings that we have at our high school on a daily basis.
Yeah, listen, you mentioned the highs. I mean, you started 4-0. I think that game against Darien was amazing. There's so much, positive that you take from it. But what was one thing that surprised you the most about, being the top head coach at a football program?
I don't know if it was as much of a surprise as maybe just trying to find a greater balance. For me, I wanted to go into the season every single week, every single day, knowing that we were doing enough to prepare our team, our program, our players, our coaches, myself. And kind of as the season went along, I went through the process of learning for me what that looks like. Early on in the season, it was 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. And then you kind of realize maybe that's not as sustainable on a consistent daily basis. So, learning to delegate, learning to put others in a position to be successful. But again, there are so many great takeaways from the season and so many things I'm so fortunate to have been able to learn through it.
Did you have a favorite moment of the season?
This might be a surprising answer, but honestly, my favorite moment as I've reflected for the past month was after our last game, losing in the playoffs. Nick Weil, our senior captain, quarterback, standing up in front of the team, and I get chills actually right now just thinking about this, but and saying to his teammates and the underclassmen how much belief he has in them in our program and what they're going to be able to accomplish. And I've been coaching for 7 years. I played obviously here for 4 years. I've also coached lacrosse for 5 years, so I've been in those last games, and I've been in the losing in the playoffs and the devastation, the heartbreak, especially for the seniors. I thought it was transcended anything that I've been a part of for a senior who just played his last snap to have the clarity and the leadership to stand in front of his teammates and speak about his belief in the program and his belief in those guys who are going to be coming back. I just thought that was an incredibly powerful moment in the face of adversity and in the face of disappointment or perceived failure. And I think it's a great indicator for what we're going to be able to accomplish years going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned failure. I never feel like, we have a privilege here for F Zone to be close with you guys, right, and watch it. It's really never a failure because you learn from everything that you do, right? I mean, learning lessons for every season. And now as you look, I know you're probably having a chance, to reflect as much on the next season, but what are you looking most forward to this second season here?
Yeah, well, I'll say one thing on just the failure aspect. This is why high school sports is amazing, right? It is true there is no failure in learning because there's growth,
right? And
you need that in order to succeed. But the other piece to toggle with, especially as a coach, is that for the seniors there is finality to it, right? And we do have a standard, and we have a clear end goal. We don't talk about winning the state championship because when you play Staples football and you play Staples sports, that's that going into it, that's what we're capable of, and that's what we want to do. So to be able to view the way the entire season went and the journey that you went on and see the value in that while also not reaching your end goal is something that's really difficult to do, but it's what makes high school sports great. For me, just looking ahead to next year, we were so fortunate to have so many players in our program this year, most all time at 130, who got great experience. Our freshman team went 8-2. Our JV team was undefeated, and a lot of our underclassmen were playing on varsity, especially down the stretch. So being able to take the learning lessons that we went through, both positively and negatively, throughout our 2025 season, and seeing that grow in the leadership and in the full off season and in the weight room on a daily and consistent basis, and the feeling of disappointment of not achieving your end goal. It's okay to feed off of that, and it's okay to feel that, and we'll play next on September 14th, and you want to harbor that emotion so that on September 14th, whoever our opponent may be can feel that weight of what we went through for an entire offseason, and how important it is for our players to reach our end goal again, which we know that we're capable of, and we've been working every single day since season end to achieve.
Yeah, you mentioned like September 14th. It's not really that far away. It's going to go by so fast, right? I mean, the offseason always does. I felt like, for the first part season where we were with you guys, there was a really good culture, like you mentioned, of Nick setting up. I mean, that first win we had at Glastonbury, that moment where he handed you the football, that was a great moment, a great picture, right? Reflect on that first game for us, and we talked a little bit, but what was the emotions like? What was it like winning that first game and all that for you?
I think I thought so long about that moment before it happened, and again, you could say September 14th or whatever the date was, and it feels so far in advance, and then the days become weeks, become months, and all of a sudden, it's right there. Yeah. And actually got a text from somebody who'd mentored me for a while the night before, and he's like, hey, write a letter to yourself that you can look back on, for years to come, about what you want the next day to look like and what you want your career and the season and your team to look like. And I spent that night really kind of reflecting on what I wanted out of this. And, then you get to the field, and it was a battle for 4 quarters, and you're just so focused in the moment of doing what you need to do to help your team be successful. And I remember the exact moment where I looked up at the clock. We're up 17-3, and there's 2 minutes left, and they were still running the ball. And that was the first time where I'm like, oh, we're about to win. And I kind of had that moment where everything that I had thought about and dreamed about was coming to fruition in that moment. But really, that's a moment to think back on and reflect on and talk about with your close friends. But at the end of the day, the focus is always on that current team, and the fact that that team had gone through so much together and had battled despite all their challenges. I really wanted to snap back in that moment and just think about those guys and that on that field in this locker room, and just what that win meant for all of us. And it was really great to be able to share that. And the picture of Nick and the team in the background with the ball, that's something I'll cherish for the rest of my life, because I think for me it was a really big culmination of just everything that we had built and are continuing to build here at Staples.
Yeah. Did you write the letter?
I did. Yeah.
You did write
it's
in
my nightstand. Yeah.
But you read, so it's I love things like that, because you keep it and you just never know where it's going, right? Now, and we talked about the position you hold, as a head football coach, has a lot of weight, everything that you do here. Have you felt any different walking those halls of everything that you've been any more weight, any less weight, people treat you differently, anything like that? Have you felt anything like that?
To be honest, I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to accomplish what, quite frankly, I've always believed that Staples football can accomplish. I think for years, not many people believed in our program and what we could do. So I felt no different in 2019, 2020, and 2023 than I do now in 2026. To me, it's always been about trying to put the best product on the field, and for our players really to be able to leave our program as better men than when they entered, and for them to really see the byproduct of sacrifice, of commitment, of energy, of being a great teammate, of being relentless, of having fire, of having passion. And I take a moment during every national anthem to think about that, right? To think to myself, what I want our players to get out of this game. And obviously we want to win, and that's always going to be the goal. But when you play high school sports, it is about teaching those qualities that shape you for the rest of your life, the same way that playing Staples football shaped me. So I don't know if I feel any different. I feel obviously a tremendous amount of pride, and then just that internal pressure that I just place on myself to get the job done and do it to the best of our ability.
It is like, and as you were talking, I was reflecting. You were talking about pressure. Like, I remember when I played. Again, reflecting back what you said, when I played my last football game, my head coach said to me, "Enjoy this moment because it might be the last time you put on pads." For me, it was, but the Staples program has been so successful placing kids in college. I think I just saw signing day. You had Mickey going to Ithaca, right? Nick going to Trinity, right? Is there any secret or anything you're doing more to help the kids who want to play the next level achieve that level?
Well, a couple things. I just want to hit on the pressure aspect one more time, right? Like, I think it's so easy in society today to get lost in those external pressures of what this person's saying about me, about what this newspaper is writing, about, what my friend thinks of me in the hallway or whatever it may be. But that's never been part of the equation, right? If you have internal values for yourself and the type of human being that you want to be, the type of coach, the type of leader, the type of player, the type of son, the type of brother, that's your report card on a daily basis. So, of course, there's more external eyes on you, but really we need to come to a place with ourselves where we're grading ourselves on our own internal report card on our values and what we want to accomplish. In terms of placing our kids at the next level, something that I'm really focused on is having those honest conversations with our players in terms of what they want.
Right.
And not everyone wants the same thing. Some players want to play and make an impact right away, right? And that fundamentally changes what college you should go to than if you want to go to a big college with great academics and just be a part of the team. So I think figuring out really what works best for our players is first and foremost for me. And then the second piece is creating those relationships with coaches in the area and around that our players are interested in their schools so that we go out on a limb for them. And I talked about this at the signing day, but for Nick Weil, obviously Trinity loved him with his tape and what he's able to do. But I have a great relationship with their associate head coach, Coach Akaruo. And I was able to say the type of person that Nick is, right? And I know he's somebody that's going to make Trinity College's locker room better. And he's going to have a positive impact on their culture and the product on the field, but a representation of the entire school, the same way that he's at Staples. When Nick Weil walks down the hall at Staples and he represents Staples football, that gives a great sense of honor and pride to all of us who are involved in it. He's the type of man that he is. So really creating those relationships with the coaches, as well as helping really push our athletes to a place where they can achieve their goals, whatever their goals may be.
Yeah, you talked about Nick. We're always here Nick is like the first row there, cheering all his teammates on. It's always so much fun to see that, right? Yeah. And I want to just touch back what we just said a minute ago about, the report card, right? Yeah. And it's great that you say that because I think if the kids at the top see the kids as a team, see it coming from the top, it's a lot easier to kind of take on that personality. And it becomes just a great coach.
When we talk about modeling behavior, I think the best form of leadership is somebody who models the behavior that they wish to see. So I could give all these speeches and say all these things. At the end of the day, kids aren't going to remember a speech that you give. They're going to remember what you put on film every single day. Right? Who you are when you walk down the hallway, the way that you treat the service people around you, the energy that you have after a win, the energy you have after a loss. And if it completely changes based on the last result, then that's the type of team that you're going to have too. Right? It was very important to me, especially as we went through a difficult stretch where I didn't want to change who I was as a coach. I didn't want to be less positive because we weren't doing as well, because that's not strong leadership. And it is very important, and there is that responsibility I think we all have as adults first and foremost, but leaders, coaches, teachers, anybody in the school that, that our kids can point to us and say, I want to act, I want to behave, I want to have similar values as to what that person has, because the way that they're living their life. And I'm by no means perfect, and I know it's impossible to be perfect, but just to at least have that intention to trying to achieve that on a daily basis, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, you got to be, try to be better each day, right? And I know a lot of people don't see the background. I do remember you talk about being the same way, loss and wins. Yeah. And that first loss, I came to you, and I said, "You okay?" You said, "I got to talk when you lose as well," right? Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. You make me a big smile. You said, "Let's talk." And that's a big part of it. You stand there, you take the hit. That's amazing. And all right, so as we wrap it up here, looking ahead, we talked about season 2. What do you think this season will look like across competitive on the football field?
Again, we have incredibly high standards. I know that we're going to be very competitive and really get back to what we know and love about Staples football. Just came out of a coaches meeting right now, just coming up with what our pillars are for our program and holding our kids accountable to it. But we have so much talent within our program. We have so many kids who care so deeply about the program and the success and about representing the school and our town and our community in the correct way. And I think one of the best things that we have this coming year is position battles all across the board, where nobody could come in and say, "Hey, I'm the starting whatever." No, you're going to have to prove it on every single day, right? And there is that healthy stress, and there's that healthy drive, and a healthy competition that says, I need to be at my best every single day. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a bad day here and then, but that I'm able to respond to that, and I'm able to stand in the face of adversity. But I have so much belief in our locker room, and really so much respect for outgoing seniors who, like I said, despite some trouble at the end of the season, not trouble, but some disappointment at the end of the season, we're very intent on making sure that they can uphold our standard in the way that we prepared, in the way that we stood together. There's never any finger pointing. We were always looking for solutions, and I wished it ended differently last season, but I know that because of the way that they behaved, that we were going to have success going forward, especially in this next season. And those seniors are going to be able to look back and feel such a sense of pride that they were able to do something that helped catapult our program.
Yeah, it's like you were in the playoffs. That's a successful season by any standard, right? I mean, I know that you think that's like how it might, but I think you make the postseason, you win more than it's a successful season. I mean, we're incredibly proud. I know this is going to be great. Let's talk hoops here. A lot of these guys, they've been doing great.
Amazing.
They've been doing great. What's your prediction for tonight's game?
Listen, so here's what I know about Staples basketball, right? And we talk about pillars and culture and standards, right? We're going to play great defense. And that's an effort thing. That's a choice. That's unrelenting defense. And since Coach Goldsher got here, I really feel like he's embodied that and really poured that into his players. And I see that on the greatest scale with Sam Placco, who is, by any stretch of the word, a superstar. And he has his name in the banner over there for 1,000 points, but what he does on a consistent basis, just with his effort on defense, Matty Corrigan, his effort on defense, Tobias, their effort on defense, I think it's going to be very hard to score against Staples tonight. And I know Norwalk is a good team, but I don't know if they face a group of kids who are as unrelenting as the Staples team is. And, when our guys get hot shooting, they get hot shooting, man. Right? And you got to stop the shooter. So I feel like there's a game that could climb in the 70s for the Wreckers, and really a game where we're going to limit Norwalk on offense, and we get out of here with a 70-40 decisive victory.
I love that. Coach Matty, I can't thank you enough for about a minute to tip-off. Thanks again for being on. We're going to do the podcast for the season. Can't wait for that. And next year we'll be there. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see it again.
Love it. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy the game. We'll send it back up.
Go Wreckers.